like a challenge. So let's go back about 3,000 years. The early Greeks actually required their citizens to train with shields and lances to defend their homes and to defend their nation. Welcome to the National Guard. And so move forward a little bit and we move into the Roman period, and the citizens of Rome were also required to do the same thing. They were required to train every day with swords, shields, lances, whatever they chose to do. And because of that, they started partying a little bit because they'd all get together to train and then they'd party a little bit. They started drinking too much wine. And the citizens of Rome determined that it would be a whole lot easier, instead of having to train so hard, like many of you have been doing here at the Sandlot JAX. Instead of training so hard, they just hire a standing army. And so that's what they did, and they formed the Roman legions. Now, from the Roman legions, they had to train. And they trained by doing exactly what many of the people you've seen here and what many of you have already done. 45 pounds, 20 miles, 5 summer hours. They called it summer hours. But that was what their standard was for training. Now, there's times when they'd carry heavier weights, but that's what they did to train their soldiers and prepare them to go to war. Now, contrary to popular opinion, I did not teach broadswords during that period of time. But if you look back at the history of warfare and preparing people, citizens, to become soldiers and fight the wars, that same standard holds true. Our Revolutionary War, the standard weight was 45 pounds. The Civil War, the standard weight was 45 pounds. And it's been that way ever since. Now, we all carry heavier weights. Our approach weight, our approach march to a battle, somewhere around 80 to 100 pounds. But your actual assault weight, your battle weight, is going to be around 45 pounds. Now, it changes in the types of equipment used. Roman soldiers carried heavy shields, broadswords, pikes, lances. Now soldiers carry their own battle gear, their IBA, their individual battle equipment. And the key is, the human performance aspect is, how do we train these soldiers to do that? Well, when I came in the 60s, as Michael mentioned, we had what they called the Army Daily Dozen. It was 12 exercises, everything from jumping jacks to push-ups to sit-ups to burpees, the standard stuff that you do. So you do those in the morning, and then you do a 2-mile run. Now, the Army decided, how do we make better soldiers? You do more calisthenics and you run farther. Well, that isn't necessarily the way to train. That isn't the best way to train. And one of the things that you'll be able to do here, if you haven't done it already, is talk to all of the speakers, the people that are here to help you and to tell you about their fields of expertise. And there's some terrific ones out here. Everything from nutrition to whatever. But that's what the Army has determined is the most important thing that's going on in the field of tactical athletes. How do we make better soldiers? When you look back at the Americans prior to World War I, they were not prepared to go to Europe and fight in the trenches. So the Army had to get them ready to do that. They had to train them. The same was true of World War II, of Korea, of Vietnam. How do we train soldiers to go to Vietnam? The standard stuff, those 12 Army calisthenics, run 2 miles, and then go jump in the jungles of Vietnam and fight. Tough business, seriously tough business. And the soldiers that went often weren't that prepared. But the Army is changing, in particular the Special Operations Army is changing. We've determined that there's a myriad of factors that apply to physical fitness. And I like to call it functional fitness. It's actual function of what you're going to do. When Scott talked about going into Afghanistan, what were the tasks that you were going to have to do? Operate at high levels and carry lots of equipment. So how do you prepare soldiers to do that? One of the things that the Army has done now for the special operations community is they've developed something called Thor 3. It's a program that incorporates clinical blood work, it incorporates nutrition, it incorporates physical therapy for recovery purposes, it incorporates physical training to prepare soldiers to do the kinds of things that they're going to have to do when they deploy, and it includes cognitive training, thought processes. Think about what you're doing. Before you do something, think about that activity that you're going to participate in. And so all of these things come into play as soldiers prepare themselves. And it's the same truths that apply to everyone here at this festival. It's the same thing. It's all about helping you to prepare yourself better for everyday life. Now, you may not prepare yourself like a tier 1 soldier. You don't have to. There's no need for that. But you can prepare yourself to be more physically fit, to be more nutritionally aware, to be more rested and recovered than you have been before. Michael mentioned that I participated in the events that led to the part of the movie of Charlie Wilson's War. When we were in Pakistan getting ready to haul missiles up the mountain to the Mujahideen, we looked at these boxes of missiles, and the missiles themselves are about 4 inches round and about 5 feet long, with a firing box that attaches to it. And we're looking at the Hindu Kush, about 11 to 14,000 feet, and we have to haul the missiles up there to these guys. How do we do that? Well, we looked next door to where we were staying, and there's a whole corral full of donkeys. My favorite animal in the world. Because why should I have to carry a missile up there when he can carry it for me, or 2 or 3? And so we did. We hired the donkeys. We put the missiles on the donkeys. The only thing we hadn't thought of was we had to carry the donkey food in our packs, because there's no food for the donkeys in the Hindu Kush to speak of. And so we used that aspect. So we just added and we changed our way around a little bit. But that's how we prepared ourselves, and that's how we took those missiles up to the Mujahideen. And they were grateful for them. They did a great job with them and killed lots of Soviet. So it's a big plus there. An interesting sidelight is later on in my career, when I was working at the college, I was asked to participate in a roundtable discussion with some Afghanis that had come to learn how to better educate their soldiers. And the Afghan group was at the head of the table, and I had been asked to come because I was running programs at Fort Bragg to help soldiers. And so I was sitting in the back, and all of these academicians are sitting around, or all the academics are sitting around the table, and I'm the chair of the mathematics department, and I'm the chair of the physics department, and I'm like, damn, So when they got to me, they said, "Who are you?" And I stood up and I said, "Well, before I do anything, let me tell you that it was my pleasure to support the Mujahideen in 1985 by providing missiles, Stinger missiles, so they could kill Soviet pilots." And the Afghani general jumped up, ran around the table, threw his arms around me, and I'm just astounded. I didn't know what to think at that point. And he said, through an interpreter, because I also did not speak his language. Darian Pushtu was way beyond my capability. I spoke a little Arabic, but I couldn't do much else. But through his interpreter, he was the lieutenant that we had taken those missiles to. So it was kind of like a closing of that circle, which was pretty cool for me to participate in. But what's interesting is in this Thor 3 program, soldiers are now using kettlebells, medicine balls, Indian clubs, all of these activities that they think is new. They just discovered them, but they're hundreds of years old. Soldiers have been using those types of activities for hundreds of years. The key is, how do you use them? How do you use it in such a way that the mechanics of what you do physically support the mission that you're going to go on? So this Thor 3 program that I mentioned, Thor 3 brings a team in, and they take that team's mission. What are you going to do? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do while you're there? How long are you going to be there? And they prepare them physically, mentally, nutritionally to deploy to that activity. And then they build them a small pack, a small flyaway, if you will, gym that they can use while they're there. And then when they return, they recover those people, they reset them, give them whatever they need. They check their clinicals again. They look at the whole aspect of the whole team, the soldiers, and they develop a program to prepare them to get them back in line and get them ready to deploy again. So we're getting a whole lot smarter about what we do and how we do it for these soldiers. What's most important about that is that those same activities can be pushed back out and are being pushed back out to you here today at the festival that you can use in your everyday life. As I said, you don't need to be a tier 1 soldier. You don't need to train to their standards, but you need to train. You need to get right nutritionally. An example is when you're lifting weights or doing anything physical, you're not gaining power and agility there. You do that in your rest and recovery period in between physical exercises. That's how it works. And so people forget that. They forget about nutrition. And you're going to hear a great speaker a little later on that's going to talk about nutrition. Nutrition is so important to fuel your body with the things that it needs to keep going and to keep moving and to do the things that you need it to do, whatever that level is. Now, you need to determine the level, but there's smart ways to do it. And that's the whole idea. Work smarter, not harder. Yeah, work hard, sure. Challenge yourself. But don't take away from that sharpness. Think about what you're doing. Think about the things you're doing, because that cognitive piece flows into that. When you start lifting or movements, don't just zone out in your head. Think about what you're doing. Think about your recovery. When you move to that recovery phase, think about your nutrition. You don't have to just stop doing everything you're doing right now, but just change things little bit by little bit by little bit. And that's what the Army has found. Rather than the old guys that when I got to units and maybe the commander was a marathoner. So what did we do instead of the daily dozen and a 2-mile run? We did maybe some push-ups and some setups, and we ran 7 miles or 9 miles. Sucked. Never made any sense to me, because the point was, I'm not going to run to battle. I'm going to march to battle. I'm going to take my equipment with me when I go. And when I get there, then I'll go down to my fighting weight, and then I'll do what I need to do. But I'm not going to run. I'm not going to do a 7-minute mile to get somewhere so that I can go fight. I need to be ready to fight when I get there. And if I run there, I'm not going to be that. So we're getting a whole lot smarter than we were before. I went through a lot of trends in America, physical fitness trends, have influenced the Army, because the Army is nothing more than an example of society today. And we went through all the trends. We went through the powerlifting aspect when Arnold showed up, and he's pumping iron and looking really good in all of his movies and everything else. Everybody wanted to do that. Well, that doesn't get you where you need to be, particularly for a daily life, unless you're just a power lifter like Arnold and doing that kind of business. No, you don't need that. I don't need that. You need a fit example, and fine, you can use him for part of that, but you need to fit fitness into your life where it fits best for you. And that's the whole key to the whole thing. To take that example that you see here, the GORUCK, all of the people that have participated in this event, all the great speakers that have been here and told you about their lives and who they were, what they did, and how they got there. Take all of that, take all of the other that you can take with you, and move it forward. Move yourself forward. Because life is nothing but a reinvention. You continually reinvent yourself throughout your life. When you graduate from school, you reinvent yourself into the business world. When you change jobs, you reinvent yourself. When you get married, you reinvent yourself. Life is reinvention. You're just continually reinventing yourself. But that's good, because it's a challenge. It's a challenge mentally. It can be a challenge physically at times. But accept that, embrace it, and use it to make you a better person. And use what you see here in this event to be a better person. Thank you very much.